as you can see, this is Trav. I'm along with Bias, but you can also see Lord. This could only mean one thing. There's a lot of boxing going on this week. This is fight week. Errol Spence and Bud Crawford getting it together in Las Vegas on the 29th of July to finally settle the argument. And what we're going to do, we're going to try to put something together over the next hour or so as more guests, we hope, jump onto the panel to talk about this boxing deal that's going on. And it is a big deal. This is a live stream show. Make sure you decide to join us with the conversation. If you agree, disagree, whatever, bring your own opinion. We'll be more than happy to talk and have the conversation of boxing along with you. So for the next hour or so, let's get it on. Paul, Bias, it's fight week, boys. What's going on?
I've been excited for this one. I've been excited for this show. I haven't actually talked to Paul in a while, so Paul, it's good to have you on the show. Thank you for coming. I know we're on opposite sides of the fence, but you respect Bud, I respect Spence, and we're gonna chop it up tonight.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think the welterweight division is my all-time favorite division of boxing. So any of these big showdowns are always like, I can't wait. So as much as I like Bud, and I don't want to take us there quite yet, but I just, when I think it's going to happen in the ring, I try not to let that sway me in terms of, just being, I want to tell the truth. I want to tell the truth about what I think is going to actually take place, whether I like a person or not. I try. Boxing is hard.
Sometimes it's hard to do that,
Yeah. I mean, you'll be pulling for a guy.
But you have your favorite fighter or someone you really like, but you think he's going to lose. It's hard to come to that conclusion and actually say it.
With us older heads, because I can tell when I talk online to some folks that these are young guys. So whether they're either young in life or they're young following the sport or both. I don't fall in love with fighters anymore. That takes you down it's like a heartbreaking thing to do it to yourself. And I think Zab Judah was my last love affair, and I'm good now. I'm good. Like at this point, we're all old enough to have seen careers go up and careers go down, and you just want to appreciate these guys while they're here, man. I mean, it's true. It's not like loving the Giants or whatever. The franchise exists forever, so you can just be a go hard guy. These guys are going to be here for one small piece of time, and then they're gone. So
that's well stated. Well stated.
Yeah, and you have your fans of boxing, and then there are boxing fans. You have people who are fans of boxing. So regardless of if it's your favorite person or not, you appreciate those two going out there, giving their best effort, and whatever happens, you can live with it. A boxing fan, the person who just has a favorite fighter and he follows boxing kind of, sort of, or she follows boxing kind of, sort of. And then when things don't go right, they have every excuse in the world to tell you why it didn't go that way, even though it's clear as day their person has lost or things weren't as good as they thought they were. Kind of sort of like Mike Tyson fans, but we're not going to go there tonight.
Well, it's funny you say that, man, because that was my first love affair. But I was in junior high school. You know what I'm saying? So there's a level of maturity that goes with what we're talking about right now, where you kind of got to put your biases to the side. Like, I was not an Evander Holyfield fan. I was not a Lennox Lewis fan at the time, and I wasn't a Tito Trinidad fan. But you'll never really hear me talk bad about those people. I respect those people to the nth power because, especially Lennox. Lennox, I've turned all the way around. I'm a big Lennox guy now.
Yeah,
I was not at the time. So you just got to be able to, like you said, just appreciate these guys because they really do put their lives on the line. This is not tennis. You know what I'm saying? Guys die in this sport, and the women die in this sport. This is a tough gig. So
you don't play boxing.
No, you don't play boxing. And I'll tell you
what,
you can't play.
Actually, we should have someone coming on who actually had a serious altercation in the ring, and maybe she'll speak on it.
Okay.
Yeah, ultimately she'll be here because I was about to say was we can have the conversation with 3 people, but it's even better when there's 4. In the house.
That's my boy Gunner. What's up,
man? How y'all doing, man? I was trying to get on here, man. I was messing with it for a little bit. Sorry for being late.
It's fight week, man. So let's get to talking.
Yeah, let's get it. Yeah, man. Heck yeah. I'm ready, man. This is one of the most exciting 5 weeks I've had in a long time, man. I've been
right on.
Yes, sir. Absolutely, man. And not even the weekends, man. Naoya Inoue yesterday morning, man. Amazing, man. That dude is insane. I'm still in shock, man, of that performance that he did.
Yeah, let's talk about that fight for a second. Let's talk about that fight because yes, this is anchored by Spence and Crawford, but that fight yesterday was such a dominant performance. And I'll tell you what, the way Inoue has been coming through the ranks and has been as dominant as he was, and we all know as boxing fans and been in boxing for quite some time, that it's pretty dangerous for a fighter to move up in weight. And we're always worried about that. Will they carry their power while they're doing it? Because it is a real big feat when they go up in weight. And even though Fulton was known as a boxer, you still know that the power that he has as a naturally bigger guy, especially with longer arms and the jabbing, being able to set up that jab, he would put himself in position to probably land that shot you don't see because of the skill and the athleticism in order to be able to land it. It didn't happen yesterday. He was utterly dominated for the entire fight. He did not stand a chance. And I think people are now trying to take away from Fulton because it takes away from Inoue, when in reality, the same masterful, skillful, tough fighter we knew Fulton to be and the champion that he is was absolutely dominated by somebody who's probably a generational talent. In my opinion, as I told Baez yesterday, regardless of what happens on Saturday between Bud and Spence, I still have Inoue as my number one. I mean, his body of work says he has a serious argument to be number one pound for pound.
So, settle this for us, because I agree he's number one at the moment. But Trav said, regardless of what happens Saturday, he's number one. Well, I can't agree with that because I have to wait and see what happens.
Right.
Well, how do you guys feel about that?
I'm with you, Bias. Because me and Trav text briefly the other day. I just think that and I don't want to take anything from Inoue at all, or Fulton, because again, I appreciate these guys for what they do, but I just think should Errol, either one of these guys, but I think we were talking specifically. I think should Errol beat Crawford? I think Crawford is a better win than Fulton is. That's a better scalp, you know what I mean, so to speak. Again, and it's all opinion, so I certainly don't have the gospel. God didn't come down to tell me I'm right about nothing, but I just think that this is, and again, we started before we even went live that I'm very biased about the welterweights. It's my favorite division. It's one of the original 8. You know what I mean? It's just This is where you get to see power and speed and all of the technical abilities. You get all of it. So I just hold that division in really, really high regard. And I'm really impressed with both guys. Fulton looked like the moment was too much for him. I was texting with my buddy. I said, yo, he looks nervous as crap. Like, he just looks skittish. His legs, I could just tell there was he didn't know what he was doing with himself. And I think it wasn't just the moment. It wasn't just being overseas. But I think Inoue is faster than maybe he thought he was.
Yes.
And that was the problem. Everybody knows the guy had power. So he didn't go in being shocked by that. But the speed and the power, and he's not just a slugger. The guy has technical ability. He was poised. I kept looking at the body language of Inoue, and I'm saying, like, that guy is as cool as a cucumber. He's chilling. He's looked like he smoked a pound of the best, and he's relaxed. He was, I mean, that's about as comfortable as you could be, rather than being in his living room in his boxers. You know what I mean? Like, he was comfortable. And
insane.
Fulton looked the exact opposite. He looked like he just couldn't get himself together. And like I said, once that speed and the combination of the power and all of it, I think the culmination was a perfect storm of just a terrible, terrible night. I'm not suggesting that he would beat Inoue in a rematch, but I think he would perform better. I think all of it was just too damn much for Fulton, man. It's crazy.
What do you say, Gunner?
I have to agree with you as well as the analysis with Fulton, man. I was in shock, man. He had the reach, man. It seemed like Inoue just did whatever he wanted. I mean, whatever game plan and adjustment that Fulton made, I mean, Inoue just accepted it, man. He accepted it, he embraced it, man, and he beat him at whatever style he wanted to come with, man. But to come with y'all's debate, man, with the pound for pound discussion, I'd have to kind of be in the middle, man. I can see a way that Bud could get the nod for the pound for pound number one. Thing is, I just don't see it, man. He'd have to do the exact same thing, in my personal opinion, that Inoue just did to Fulton for me to give him that nod, and I just don't see that happening, man. I think Spence is too good. I don't see Spence being a pushover like that. I'm not saying that Fulton is a pushover in whatsoever. I'm just saying what occurred yesterday in that performance. I don't see that ever happening to a guy of Errol Spence's caliber. And I think that's what's going to make me give someone like, who give Terence Crawford that nod. I mean, man, it's 3 weight classes before, man. I get it's 15 pounds or 14 pounds the 12. I get it's not that difference. But I look at Bud's resume, man, and Errol's the guy who's beat more names at 147. Errol is the guy who's beat more names at 147. I don't see the resume of who he's beat over 135, 140, and 147 to match up with Inoue's resume, man. Inoue's been at it, man, fighting the best of the best, man, for the past years. Yeah, he's been going, yeah. And
I hear you loud and clear, but if he beats Spence impressively, there's no Errol Spence on Inoue's resume, though.
I agree with that. That's all I said. I'm in between you guys, man. Man,
that's why I say let's wait and see. Just wait and see what happens.
Yeah, I know we're going to get to it, man, but I think Spence has a lot for Crawford, man, in store. I think he really does, man. I think he's going to show up and show out. I don't see. Yeah, that's why the fight's going to show up on Saturday. That's why we're here to watch the fight on Saturday, and that's why we're here debating it 100%. And I'm right in the middle. Absolutely, there's a possibility that Terence Bud Crawford can be pound for pound #1 on Saturday. We're going to have to see. It's a long shot. He's against all odds.
I think it's fair to say, though, that if Bud beats Spence, he has more of an argument to talk about #1, even though I have Inoue at #1, but he has more of an argument to say that he's #1 than if Spence were to beat him, because Spence is a lifetime 147-pounder, and when it's all said and done, Bud was once upon a time 130 pounds, 135 pounds. Now he's 147 pounds. And the little guy is supposed to, theoretically, regardless of what Vegas is saying, because right now they're siding with Bud, but he's supposed to beat that guy. All logic says the bigger guy is supposed to beat the good little guy. So if he beats him, he's kind of doing what's expected, regardless of what happened in his past with the accident, the stop and fighting, the inconsistencies. But Inoue coming straight up the way he had done, and let's not act like Fulton wasn't a top fighter. This is all everyone was talking about before they fought. They really thought that Fulton would win. I mean, I've heard even Boots Ennis, and of course I try to take it with a grain of salt when another boxer talks about a boxer, because we have a tribal sport, and he says, well, Inoue's going to get beaten in probably 8-9 rounds, when there was no evidence that Fulton with 8 KOs could do something like that. It happened, and so Inoue wins the way he had won, gone through multiple weight classes, won several belts, even in today's age of a belt with everyone and a belt for everyone. And that's more than what Bud has done so far. And hey, with Spence being a so-called weight bully and fighting 147 his entire career, I mean, what do we really know?
Yeah, I agree 100% with you, man. I think Bud's the one that's fighting for the pound-for-pound #1 spot on Saturday night. And I'm from Fort Worth, Texas, man. I'm 30 minutes away from right where, and right from where Spence is growing up at, So I'm team man down, but I can't agree more. Bud's the one going for pound #1 on Saturday night.
Yeah, that's why I disagree to the extent that I don't care about weight class jumping as much as I care about who you're actually fighting, because you know what I mean. They're me and Bias have certainly given Canelo the blues about some of his skipping around town, and so look, and it always seems like we're bashing on the guy, but it's like with my kids. Like, I expect more out of you. I expect more from you. That's why I'm hard on you. You know what I mean? Canelo is in a position to have done things that I want to see him do that I think he can do, but he won't do. So I don't care so much about skipping around weight classes, and I'm not undermining the accomplishment there, but it's about who you're fighting at the weight classes, not the weight classes themselves. You know what I mean? That's the stuff for me. Like Bernard Hopkins pretty much created a Hall of Fame career before even leaving middleweight. You don't have to. They had guys. I'm not a glove guy. Right. So you don't have to do it if you're fighting good competition. And again, I don't want to. This is why I really got to see what happens on Saturday. I'm still, again, and I admit my bias, because I don't watch much under 126 on a regular basis. I'm just going to be honest with you. I just don't. Matter of fact, it started. I think Naseem Hamed started me being like, who is this loudmouth son of a bitch? That he was the first guy that made me start paying attention. I mean, I watched some Kevin Kelly and stuff, but like I wasn't.
Man,
I'm usually lightweight and above is me, usually. Unless you got to be some special, there's every blue moon you get some special talent that'll make you pay attention. But
You're
I
not
wasn't
an Orlando Canizales fan? Come on, brother.
Orlando Canizales was a dog, bro.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
And I'll be honest. I mean, this is probably another an American assumption, but how many great Japanese fighters have we ever seen? I mean, I'm almost 50. I haven't seen many great Japanese fighters.
No, they haven't been.
I'm sleeping on you. I'm sleeping on you a little bit. So so the guy hits hard, but I thought, for example, Fulton's boxing skills would at least carry him into the later rounds in a way where it was competitive. It was never competitive. It was never, not at any moment, really. That was crazy. But yeah, man, I want to see what happens Saturday before I can say who's pound for pound best. Because Bud's resume is kind of thin, man. I mean, I don't know. I've got some biases there because I'm heavy on. I'm an Errol Spence. Errol Spence is my favorite active fighter. I do not like that he's a Dallas Cowboy fan, but I understand because he's from Texas. So I'm from DC. It's a thing. It's a thing. It's got to be a thing. But we're trying to put football aside. Other than that, I rock with Spence heavy. So do we want to dive in on that?
Let's dive in on that because looking at Spence's resume. What's really on that resume? I mean, when you look at some of these names, you look at Porter and then you look at the common opponent, obviously, that he and Bud have had. They fought each other about 2 years apart. A lot can happen, especially with Porter's style, which gets a lot of wear and tear along the way. But one knocked him out, the other one didn't. And then you look at even the other parts of the resume where Errol Spence, as big a puncher as he is, as fundamentally sound as he is, he fights someone like Mikey Garcia, who I have a lot of respect for. He was the only guy that wanted to step up and fight him. But he can't even knock out Mikey Garcia, which he was supposed to have done. A former 126-pound fighter now fighting at 147. That's pretty insane. It's something that has to be mentioned.
Well, I think too. I was a big Mikey. Like I liked Mikey a lot. I didn't like the jump up and wait for these glory fights. I didn't think he should.
There she is.
Hey, look who we have.
Welcome,
everyone.
Hey.
How's everyone doing?
Let me just introduce the guys to you. Let me introduce. You can see the names. That's Trav. He's my sports bag bro partner. Ring Dragon. His name is Paul. I've known him for over 20 years. And Gunner, he's from Texas. He's my little homie. Known him for maybe 10 years from the boxing page. And guys, this is, as you can see, Alajandra Fenix Ayala. She's a former world title challenger, and she's gracing us with her presence.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for showing up.
Great to meet y'all.
So we were just about to dive into the fight for Saturday. We were talking about the monster Inoue being number one pound for pound. But guys want to jump into Saturday night's fight now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, ladies first on this one. What are your thoughts, initial thoughts on this fight between Crawford and Spence? Do you see any fighter that has the decided edge right now, or is this, like most people think, razor thin and you can't pick one or the other right now until they're actually fighting?
I think, yes, it is difficult. I think in general, especially when you see the fight, but I think if you actually look into the fight, look into who they've been fighting, I mean, even just looking at, for example, Sean Porter, because that's the only one who they actually fought. Crawford, won by knockout, whereas Errol Spence, he couldn't knock him out. It was actually a split decision. So even looking at it that way, you're like, wait, hold on. And then if you just look at like who Crawford has actually fought, it's people that we know, whereas, Errol Spence hasn't really fought the people that are, more common, and he hasn't really had knockouts. So I think in that, I think Crawford has a little bit more results, and he probably has a little bit more edge into winning. However, because Errol Spence is the younger, more attractive fighter, I think people probably want or think that he's more able to win. So, I mean, it is a tight fight in those 2 rounds, but I think Crawford has, you know, for me, I think he could win.
Yeah, well, I think it's a 50-50 fight. I think it can go either way. I'm a Bud Crawford fan, so my gut is telling me Bud's going to pull it out somehow, but I'm not confident about that. I just want to see a great fight.
Absolutely, me too, man.
Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
Man, I think this this fight is as much as a coin toss as you can make it, man. I think Vegas is crazy with these odds, man. I think I think the public is crazy, man, just being confident in whoever they're picking. I mean, I can't say with any confidence at all, man, that I know the outcome of this, man. I could see anything happening, from Spence even putting on a plate, man, with his boxing and being the more defensive fighter with his southpaw jab. Like I have no prediction for this fight whatsoever. It's insane, man. Like, but man, if you ask me, man, if I had to put my life on it, I look at Crawford, and I look at the more versatile guy. I look at he has more ways to win, and he's the guy who gets hit less. Obviously, man, he probably gets hit less more. I mean, gets hit less than anyone in boxing. Shakur Stevenson, Lomachenko, Devin Haney, name all of them, man. I don't know anyone in boxing right now who gets hit less than Terence Crawford, man. It's insane, man. He does not get touched that much.
And the reason why, in my opinion, I think because he has the ability to go from southpaw to orthodox and transition with pretty seamlessly, like Marvin Hagler had done, and Crawford has all of that diversity, and we know that he has so much more to his game. When you look at Errol Spence, he's fundamentally sound. And if you started boxing or boxing, of course, Alajandra, boxing, of course, we've watched boxing for a long time. Some of us have participated in one way or another. And the fundamentals is the reason why you start from there and move on, because it shows you the best way to go about everything before you add everything on. So the reason why you throw the jab and bring it right back, the reason why you throw your right hand and you move and pivot the right way, then comes right back. You use less energy, more technique, and it's more effective that way. That's what Errol Spence brings to the table. Crawford brings that fundamental, but he's learned all the other things as well. So when it comes down to a battle of attrition, that's what I'm looking at more than anything.
I'm sorry. This is the one thing that worries me, and I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry about that. This is the one thing that worries me, man, is that Crawford, man, is the way that he's not a slow starter. He's not a slow starter whatsoever, man. But he's the way that he breaks down a fighter, man, in the first 3 rounds. I don't know if you can give up those first 3 or 4 rounds, man, against a guy like Errol Spence, who's going to start off, man, and just, man, he's the dog, man. He's going to put the pace on you from the jump, man, and he's going to come out with volume. I don't know if Bud can give up. I don't know if Bud can afford to be down 1-3, man, and going into the 5th round. I don't know if you can do that against a guy like Errol Spence. And I think, like you were saying, man, I think Errol Spence is fundamentally sound enough to where if he's up, man, I think he can be the guy to fight behind that southpaw jab, man. And I think he can use his size and his distance, man, to at least get 3 or 4 more rounds, man, out of that. And for that reason, man, if you put my life on the line, I gotta take man down.
I'm gonna be the one to go out a little bit on a limb here, and I know when I say this, on its face, it's gonna seem like I'm undermining Terence Crawford. But I think when I boil it all down, I'm more giving him the proverbial puncher's chance. I think Errol is more consistent. My concern for Errol, and being an Errol fan, is one of these thread the needle counters, like punching between a shot that hurts Errol. If he cannot hurt Errol, it's going to be a long night. Because like Gunnar was saying, being down by 3 rounds, how did those 3 rounds play out? It will be like a cutesy jab that he's out. Errol's a grind you down, body shot, come forward, land shots, high ball you got. If you're down 3 rounds to Errol significantly, that means you took punishment for 3 rounds. It didn't mean, you know what I mean? I don't think Crawford doesn't get hit a lot, but this is not Floyd Mayweather slippery. You got dropped by Mean Machine. I think Crawford also fights with a little bit of emotion. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He's one of those guys, you hit him, you want to get it back. And I think he deviates from the technical aspect because he's such a good athlete. Brings me to my other point. Being so athletic, you start to see guys at 36, 37, that stuff starts to erode. We've seen Roy Jones. I would have bet on Roy like the sun was coming up in his prime. But when that stuff starts to go and your fundamentals aren't what you depend on, that's when you can get caught slipping. I mean, I feel like he's got a lot more to prove. Like I said, I think puncher's chance, man. I think Errol is more consistent. The volume, the power, the size, the durability. People talk about, this is the other thing. When we talked about opponents, Errol has beaten two guys that have beat Bud Crawford. Now, obviously, Ugas beat him in the amateur, both of them, Danny Garcia and Ugas beat him in the amateurs. But Errol punished both of them. He punished them guys. He punished them, dude. That's I think it's a different game. The caliber of people that Errol's been fighting at welterweight is different from what Crawford's been doing at welterweight. Amir Khan, that was a shot-worn Amir Khan. Kell Brook hadn't been at welterweight in it was like a couple of years. And he was already a big welterweight he was kind of a tweener. He wasn't really a 54 guy, but he was a little bit too big for welterweight. And then Sean Porter, by his own admission, that was not the best version of Sean Porter. By Sean Porter's admission himself and his father. So, I just feel like Errol has been doing more at this division, and I think he's hungrier. Who held this up? Who went to fight on BOK Prime against a guy no one cared about? It was not Errol. Errol's waited. He would have had every justification to move on at 54. I had moved on emotionally. I didn't think this fight was going to happen, y'all, for real. I was like, you know what? I can't. I'm getting blue balls of the boxing mind, and I have to move on. Like, it's not going to go down, and it is. But Errol always wanted this. That spin the block thing, he stayed for this. So I'm going with Errol, especially with the Vegas odds, like you said, bro.
It's insane.
Let me just say
the truth is, as he mentioned, they're both excellent fighters, but if you look at both of the fighters, it doesn't matter who's been knocking out more fighters or who's had. The truth is, none of them have actually fought great fighters, even though their technique is good and they're having knockouts and they're doing great. Like, nobody has really. Who are they fighting? Victor Postol, Felix Diaz, Amir Khan, who everyone really knocks out all the time. Kell Brook, or we look at the other side, we have Danny Garcia, Mikey Garcia, Chris Algieri. Really, not to say they're terrible, but really they're not, upgraded. So none of these guys have really fought anybody great. They're great boxers, that's true. But this Saturday, we're really going to see who's the best.
Yeah, I just wanted to say in response to Paul, we have to be careful with what fighters say after they lose.
Absolutely.
If Porter would have knocked out Bud, he'd have been like, I want a rematch with with Spence. He'd have been talking crazy. He would not have been thinking about retirement. But because he lost, he's singing a different tune. I mean,
his dad put him on Front Street too, though. His dad really, because I thought that was I didn't think that was cool from Kenny to do that in front of the cameras and everybody. But his dad put him on blast about that too. So, I just don't feel like it. That's Sean Porter, because there's some stuff with he's got arthritis with the hips. He was already doing the podcast and stuff. That was a different, and he was up. Let's not forget that.
Yeah,
he was up. He was up. You know what I mean?
Until he wasn't.
Well, true, but that's
when Bud realized that he wasn't up, that he was up, he went out the next round and took him out of there.
But look, Errol had a tendency, when you saw with Mikey Garcia, and I don't like this, but I respect him for doing it. Everybody said that Mikey was such a supreme boxer, and they were undermining Errol's skills. So Errol wanted to box this guy. Everybody talked about the dog in Porter, and then he fought a dog fight with him. Like, Errol's he's hungry and competitive in a way that I just feel like that's a problem for virtually anybody. I mean, it's going to be a problem at 54 too.
Yeah,
it's going to be a problem at 54 also.
If he fights Saturday night the way he came out against Ugas, where he just came out there, I'm coming after you, hitting you with everything, the kitchen sink, I'm bringing it, try and stop me, it's going to be a barn burner, because either he's going to stop Bud or Bud's going to pick him apart.
Yeah.
But Bud is not going to be there like Ugas was. Ugas was tailor-made.
No, but I'm saying if he fights that style,
he's
going to force Bud to let his hands go.
He's so fundamentally sound, as I already had said. And what he does is that he doesn't even try to diversify because it's worked for him to be fundamentally sound. When things get deep, what does he do? He doubles down on what he's already done. You know what I mean? This is one of the deals where if it becomes a battle of attrition, which I continue to say, it becomes where a point to where skills will no longer pay the bills depending on who the opponent is. I just think that Bud Crawford, having the diverse game that he has so many facets to his game, and he's a dog himself. I mean, he's a tough dude for some reason. If you just look at his background outside of boxing, wrestling, just being overall competitive, just flat out being a dog trying to prove something since 130 up to 147. I mean, there's a lot to this, even if Errol continues to stay with the fundamentals, doubling down, just trying to overwhelm him, because ultimately that's what it comes down to for him. He's the bigger guy. He's going to try to force his will, and he continues to say it every time, unless he's doing that psychological thing, saying something that he doesn't necessarily mean. But it looks like from all standing, he's looking to just pound. If he gets caught with a punch or two or gets frustrated, he's going to continue with the same game plan. There isn't a part two to the game plan. It's that one, Terminator. That's it.
And you know, Bud is the master of making adjustments. He can switch southpaw to orthodox and give more angles, and he's the more versatile fighter.
Yes.
But you know, if they were both the same weight, I don't think there'd be any question. Bud would be a clear favorite, even though he's the favorite. If you ask boxing fans, most boxing fans would not perceive him as the favorite. But if he was a 147-pound fighter his entire career, I don't think it would be a question. We'd all be saying, "Oh, Bud's the favorite."
Go ahead, Trav.
No, I'm thinking the reason why he's the favorite, even more pronounced from people on the outside. You know, they're looking at the outside elements, the accidents, plural, 2 accidents at least, and then things that happen in, the drinking life that he used to have. We never heard about any of those things with Bud. The only things we really hear about him outside of boxing is he loves guns. That's it. Outside of that, it's just boxing, and more boxing. He's just more dedicated to the craft from the very beginning than Errol Spence has. Now, Errol Spence might have had an epiphany after everything he's gone through, and now everything is boxing now, but it obviously wasn't always that way when you're out there drinking all the time, flipping your car, getting into accidents, having issues that may cost you your career.
Well, I mean, degenerate behavior and boxing have gone together for a long, long time. Like, look, Duran was a fan of bending the elbows too. You know what I mean? Like, it's a lot of guys that spent their time partying. I think different strokes for different folks. People's bodies are different. People's mentalities are different. But when we're talking about the thing I was thinking about just now was when we're talking about the technical aspect. Bud loops a lot of shots. He doesn't throw a lot of straight joints. He loops his shots a little bit. The arcs are a little bit wide. His legs are slowing down, and he's carrying heavier weight. He looked pretty big in the build up to this during the training camps. That's about the most fleshed out Bud that we've seen. And even in the arrivals, he's been wearing a lot of heavy stuff. Where Errol's there in regular t-shirts. I don't know if he's bulked up too much. I'm not convinced about that. The other thing was with the southpaw stuff. You're fighting a southpaw. So the stance switching, I think some of the stuff that might be fuddle an orthodox fighter is not really necessarily going to be in play when you're talking about a natural southpaw. Now, I know martial arts and boxing are different, but for myself, I never switched stances because I want to develop everything that I have. I want to be as best as I can in this stance. But one of my best friends switches both. So you have a lot more options, but are those options fully refined? As the guy who spends time in only one stance. You know what I'm saying? You know exactly what you want to do, where I think some of that improv stuff can get you in trouble. You can get in trouble trying to not totally sure what you're going to do because you're spending a little bit more time not being the pocket quarterback, you're being Mike Vick. That can work, and then that can go bad too. I just like the consistency, it's funny that Errol used the Tim Duncan comparison because I had used that before I heard him use that. Not that I made it up or whatever. I'm just saying he does remind me more of a Tim Duncan. It's not flashy, but it's winning and it's consistently winning. You know what I mean? I feel like I have to go with that. The bigger, stronger, younger, more consistent guy, and I do love a body puncher. And Errol will go to your breadbasket. I love that shit. So I don't know the nature of it because I don't know. I don't know how this is going to go down. It could go down. Somebody could get stopped. I feel like we're going to have a knockdown, drag out. If someone gets stopped, it's late. 10, 11, 12. You know what I mean? But I think we're going to look. I'm not going to drink a lot of water or anything because I don't want to go to the bathroom during this fight. I'm not trying to miss anything. You know what I mean? Like I have fight parties and stuff, and usually I'll let people sit wherever. No. That front row center seat is my shit. Don't anyone sit there. I am watching. I've been waiting for this for years, man.
Yeah.
This, no matter what happens, this is going to be a great week of boxing.
Go ahead, Phoenix.
I think we're all talking in general the how great both of them are punchers and technique and everything. But we also got to talk about their defense. I think obviously Spence Jr. is more quicker in order to move, and Crawford is better just standing there and hit and blocking and things like that. But because both of them are very good with their defense, I think what's going to happen is what sometimes happens. They're both great fighters, offense and defense, that we're probably going to wait a few rounds where nothing is going to happen.
No, don't say that.
Boxing guys got on that one.
You're right. That's happened a lot. I'm hoping that it's not a dud, but hey, you hit the nail on the head. We've been disappointed before.
Yeah. Oh God, don't say that. That's blasphemous right now. I tell you what, what's to be said about what's a problem with a southpaw is fighting another southpaw. Bud has gone back and forth several times throughout his career. And on the other hand, Errol Spence hasn't seen too many southpaws. A southpaw doesn't get to see a southpaw, just like a righty doesn't get a chance to see a southpaw very often. What does he do when he sees a southpaw throughout the entire fight? Because, look, Bud can stay southpaw throughout the entire fight. He's going to switch up for the sake of switching up, and he can do it and be effective doing it. But if he decided to stay southpaw because he's having some success, there's no reason to go back to being orthodox. I think Errol Spence will have some issues. And when she talks about defense, when Alejandra's talking about defense, being able to switch back and forth,
have to do whatever works.
We're not getting hit.
Yeah, you can get caught in transition too, though. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm saying. It's all about. There's never anything right or wrong because different strokes are for different folks. You know what I mean? Like people are wired differently. For me, I like the more of the sure thing, and I just feel like trying to be a little bit too artistic and a little bit too creative can get you into a spot where you got a guy who doesn't do none of that. I'm coming at you with pressure, but educated, good jab, tuck chin pressure. And when I get up close, I'm banging to the body. That is a hard thing to deal with for 12 rounds. You know what I mean? Like that's a lot. She's back.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
This is my one thing that kind of gets me, man, is that this goes for all sports, man. This goes for every single sports, is the bright lights. And I know that Terence Crawford's been on pay-per-view a million times, but Errol Spence, man, has been in some big fights, man, even if it's against Mikey Garcia, who's coming up from 135, man, he's filling up Cowboy Stadium. You know what I mean, man? Yeah. He's got 70,000 people in the arena, man, and I don't know if Bud's ever been in those type of environments. And we've seen those. We've seen those. And I know that Josh Taylor is not Terence Crawford, but let's not act like Josh Taylor was in the top 10 pound for pound fighter just a couple of weeks ago or a month ago, and Teofimo Lopez was almost a 2-1 underdog to go out there and stop him, man. And it looked like Taylor was just the guy who's been there more times. You know what I mean, man? And it looked like the guy who's more experienced. And I know that Josh Taylor. Josh Taylor's coming off a very, very iffy decision. He's Jack Catterall. That was a robbery. I'll call that a robbery right now.
Yes.
But yeah, absolutely. But Josh Taylor is for real, man. And we've seen guys who have not been there before, man. I mean, Stephen Fulton, man. Let's look at we're just talking. Yeah, Stephen Fulton. We want to talk about one of those situations. Stephen Fulton's never been in a big fight like that in his life, man. And he showed up, man, and it was a dud. He was a dud, and like you said, bro, he comes back another time. I don't think he's going to make that performance, but I don't know if Terence Crawford has ever had a fight on the level of. I mean, the last Sean Porter fight was a pretty big deal, But I don't. Other than that, man, I don't see those big pay-per-views.
You make a good point, but I think we all can agree that Bud is different. He's not going to be a guy that cowers under the lights.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
He's coming focused, intense, determined. The crowd, the lights, the cameras, they're not going to bother him. He's going to be focused on Spence, and he's going to try and do what he does. What do you think, Phoenix? Phoenix, what do you think?
Yeah. I was out a little bit, so I'm just coming back to this. So I'm not 100% sure where you guys are at right now.
No, we're talking about Bud possibly being intimidated by the big crowd and the lights, the size of the event.
No, not at all. I don't think so. I don't think he's even an amateur been terrorized by the crowd. He seems very mentally ready for all of this. And I think both of them are very ready for this match. They've been wanting it for years, and it's finally come across. So they're ready, and they want to be champions. Both of them want to be, want those 4 belts, and they've been trying it for years. And as I said, even though they haven't, for me, fought the best of the best in their division, they've been waiting exactly for this type of fight. So they're ready, and they're all gonna put on a show.
I agree.
Yeah.
So did you guys watch the Arrivals at all? Did you guys watch the?
I saw clips of it, but not the entirety.
No, I haven't watched it.
And I try not to read too deeply into these things because, again, people are wired differently. Some folks just express themselves in ways that other people don't. But Terrence's face, his expression, and I don't know. Again, I alluded to perhaps the weight thing because it's hot as the devil in Vegas right now, and he's layered up with hoodies. I don't know if it's the weight thing, and maybe that's what's got him kind of sullen. But his demeanor did not seem as comfortable as Errol's did. Errol seems like it's another day at the office, and I know that listening to some of the interviews over the past years with the stuff that Bomac and him were saying, maybe they feel like they're up against it, and that the PBC is against them, or I don't know what the psychology is. But looking at the Arrivals and just watching him walk, the body language was different, and it seemed like Errol was a little bit more comfortable. Now, once you get punched in the face, we stop thinking about these things. So maybe walking to the ring, you got the gym. Like Mike Tyson used to talk about that. The ring walk was one experience, but once you climb through the ropes, it's a different thing. So we don't know. I don't know how this is all going to play out. Oscar De La Hoya, who I used to really be a big fan of, used to say he was looking up at the sky to his mother. I think you just didn't like the
You know that now.
Look, well, listen. I didn't believe it then because, I mean, again, the days that I fought, I didn't do a lot of eye contact because it doesn't matter. I've never been punched by nobody's eye in my life. So it doesn't matter what the eyes are doing. You know what I mean? It matters once we get grooving and you taste that first one, that first good one that just, you know what I mean? They click, something clicks. Once you takes that first good one and you got the little spit in your mouth, that little taste in your mouth, it's on. Now it's on and it doesn't matter. So I think at that point, it won't really matter about the rising to the occasion until that really happens. And then we're going to see once both guys get their feet wet and we're in a thing. I think by round 2, we're going to find something out. Somebody's landing something big. We may have that chess round, the first round, maybe, but by round 2, they're 2 hard-headed men. They're hard-headed as hell, both of those guys. Somebody's going to come. Somebody's going to come bring something, man.
One thing I was thinking about is these guys have been looking to this matchup for so long, and it's fight week. It's here. I'm sure they're irritable. They're on edge. When they come face to face, do you think there's going to be a possible shoving, pushing? Or?
I don't think so. A lot of respect so far.
I know there's respect, but when you're that amped up and you got a guy in your face who's just as amped up.
Yeah, we've seen it before. Yeah.
Errol is such a laid back country dude. Like I don't see it's just gonna be some trash talk. We're not necessarily gonna be able to hear it depending on who's got the meat, but we're gonna see those jaw jacking when the faces are there. We're gonna see that. But I think these are 2 dudes who don't And I like Devin Haney, but you know he lost his cool. Some guys lose their cool. I think these guys are cool. These are older guys. They're not in their 20s.
Forget Bud Smoke and Benavidez.
Yes, I feel like it's going. They're going to save that for the ring. I'm not worried about those two. The way their personalities are, I'm not concerned about that. It's going to go down though.
I don't try to look too much into what body language is going on, because anything can happen in the fight. Like you said, you can stare at somebody, look all mean all you want to. Your eyes never fought anybody. And you know what? Ultimately, you got to fight regardless of how mean you look before the fight, how mean you look during the fight. You still have to fight one another. You know, I used to go back to look at Eric Morales during the weigh-in, and he looked like he was deaf. Like, yo, this is it. He couldn't even make the weight. He's going to lose. And then he goes out there the next night and destroys the fighter, like all of the time. Every weight, he looked terrible, like this should be his last fight at this weight. He can't make it. And then he destroys the opponent the next day. Body language never really meant that much to me, unless you're showing outward fear. I mean, unless you just like Frank Bruno, Hail Marying out of the locker room into the ring and pretty much not wanting to be in the ring.
You know, and I was a Barrera guy, just for the record. I was a Barrera dude, so you know it is what it is. Hey, Mexico City versus Tijuana, baby. I was Barrera all day.
Bro,
I'm from Tijuana, but that's okay.
Hey, I'm just saying, look.
Hey, let me clear something up real quick, man. In no way, shape, or form do I mean to make it seem like Terence Crawford was going to fold under pressure. No, yeah, that's not what I meant.
Like no, you made a good point, though. It happens.
Yeah, man. Like I said, man, this thing's a coin flip, bro. And I'm talking about the slightest of edges, man. The slightest of edges. And that's what I mean by that. I don't mean in no way, shape, or form that Terence Crawford's going to go out there and look like Stephen Fulton.
So this isn't any hometown bias? Being close to Dallas, this isn't any hometown bias for Errol Spence?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I ain't gonna lie, but I there's bias there, man, but I'm pretty confident in Spence, man. Let me say this, man, and whenever Canelo and Triple G fought, man, the hardcores, and I get Triple G won that first fight, man. I had 9-3 hands down. But that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion personally, man. But I thought Triple G was damn near robbed of that fight. But I could have it 6-6 Canelo. A lot of people can say it was 7-5 Canelo on that fight, man. But one thing that I remember is that everyone from especially the boxing hardcores, man, had Triple G just running through Canelo. And I mean, there was people out there who, most of the everyday fans, you know, I won't want to say casuals, but they were, a lot of them were really Team Canelo. But the hardcores, man, they thought that Triple G was just going to, it was just going to be a stomping match, man. And that's why I feel that the fans have been coming out for Terence Crawford. And I don't see it like that, man. I think that the fans are really going to, especially the hardcores, are going to be surprised, man, what Errol Spence is about. I don't think in any way, shape that Errol Spence is fixing to be ran through. And
being honest, I think one part is like who the fans who see, like the fans, who do they see win? But then we also have to pay attention to the judges. I have been a judge for amateurs and for professionals, and honestly, like just taking the courses and everything, there is a difference. And like we've talked about, like what does Errol Spence do? And honestly, the movement, the touching and moving, that really doesn't count. Even though it looks good, if you're just touching and moving, if Crawford lands one and Spence Jr. hit him 20 times, Crawford wins that round. You know what I'm saying? And even though like a lot of times the fans are like, oh, but look at him and he's moving and he touched them, but that doesn't really count. So a lot of times that's why the fans are always fighting with the judges and saying, no, he was bought and things like that. But we also got to pay attention to that sort of thing. And unfortunately, it counts more. So I think that's gonna, if you're saying, oh, because Crawford has more fans, or he's an older guy, or he's a tougher fighter, maybe that's why he's gonna win. I mean, that technically that's because the judges see it like that's more winning. So that is like a little problem I think that Spence Jr. is gonna have, that he punches more and moves more, but not necessarily to the judges that he will win that round.
So let me ask you this. A lot of fans think that Kambosos lost his last fight. I believe it was last weekend.
Yeah.
And one of the judges had it 117-111 for Kambosos. You know, the other judges were respectable, 114, 114, 115, 113. I didn't agree with it. But what do you think that judge was watching? 117, 111? It seems like he wasn't watching the fight.
I honestly didn't see that fight. But yeah, when it's like that, sometimes it seems a little ridiculous. As you say, sometimes it is a matter of what you think. You know, sometimes when it's very similar of the fighters type of fight, you can say, oh, yeah, okay, it went 2 rounds the other way. But if two judges are saying, okay, it went 2 rounds one way, 2 rounds the other way, and the other, sees it 10-0, you're like, that doesn't even make any sense. Yeah, he was probably bought.
You know, there's a lot of
he was bought. I didn't even say that.
TJ Roth.
He was bought. He cheated on purpose.
It's hard to be objective because different judges like different things, right? Like for myself, we're talking about the Triple G and Canelo situation. I preferred what Canelo brings to the table in both fights. To be perfectly honest, my leanings and my biases, and I try to admit this stuff up front, but I like to see defense from a guy. I like to see versatility from a guy, and I thought going in Canelo was going to do it. I didn't know why he waited so long and even relinquished a title rather than fight Triple G. And I just like what I saw from him in all 3 fights. I've just liked what I saw from Canelo more than what I see from Golovkin. I think
Golovkin
the one who was right. And look, and I talk a lot of shit about Canelo. So, but I'm honest. You know what I'm saying? Like I like the guy. I like what he does in the ring. It's the business Canelo that I don't like. And the some of the opponent selection.
Diva, you can say it.
Right. And I mean, and that's the stuff that frustrates me. But staying with the judging thing, like it just really depends on what kind of judges, what they prefer. I didn't think that Bernard Hopkins lost. Was it a draw? The first one with Jermaine Taylor?
Jermaine Taylor, no, he lost the first one.
And I thought Jermaine Taylor was throwing a lot of stuff that was shoulders. It was busy activity, but they got to be scoring shots. Like for myself, I like clean, effective punching more than volume punching. But that's just a preference. That's just a bias as a judge. So it's really going to depend on the kinds of judges that we got there. But honestly, I don't think this is going to the card, y'all. Somebody's not going to make it. I don't think this is going to the card. I don't think we're going to have to worry. Honestly, I think once the water starts heating up, somebody's going to wilt. That's why this is so tantalizing. This is why this is so good. I don't think we're going to have to worry about judges' scorecards. This is going to end in the later rounds, I think. TKO by somebody. I don't think nobody's getting stretched. I think somebody's going to have seen enough. Either the ref or the corner is going to be like, all right, that's good. We're good. No mas. Let's live to fight another day. I
keep thinking that both have good enough defense and both are strong enough to take on good punches that it's going to go all the way.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Spence is probably taking the punches. I mean, he could take punches. We've seen it. Even when he was off balance against Ugas and Ugas was able to get out there and get a couple of shots on, he still couldn't get him out of there.
He wasn't hurt.
He wasn't hurt. It was a mouthpiece thing.
Once he found out his teeth, his partner wasn't knocked out, he was smiling. Like I think he likes it.
He was more worried about that than the punches coming from Ugas.
Right.
But we've seen Terence Crawford get a little careless and get knocked down, but he gets up with emotion and he finishes the fight. But this is a true puncher he's going against. This is the obviously bigger guy he's going against. Someone who's fundamentally sound. I say it all the time. As far as being fundamentally sound, that means that you're probably fundamentally sound mentally as well. So if Crawford were to go down, you're probably likely to keep your composure, not go crazy, just headhunt. You'll still set it up to kind of finish him off if you can. I just think Crawford won't put himself in that position. His condition has never been questioned. He can do it for 12 rounds if he has to. And if there's an opportunity in between time, he'll do that as well.
Yeah, I think so too. Maybe if it was back in the day when it was 15 rounds, maybe, but 12 rounds he could take.
Give me 2 seconds, y'all. My bad. Here's his 10th birthday today.
What's up, Cheryl?
Happy birthday, man.
And since we had to come down here, even though you hear Dad doing his thing, we might as well get on the camera. Hello.
Of course. There you go.
I'll be up in a second, man. Jesus. Oh, get out of here. Get the town. Who do you wait? Shia, who do you think is gonna win?
Let me just say, I spent the weekend in Baltimore with Paul. I took my son to a Ravens game, and he's got some great kids. Paul was an awesome host. We had a great time. We had a cookout. I showed him my culinary skills. He was happy.
Oh yeah. Maybe I need some more of those.
You always barbecue
his boys, man. His boys, they're fun. They're good-natured kids. You're doing a good job there, Paul.
I appreciate it. And they're boxing heads too, man. Who you picking?
Oh yeah, they were sparring the night of the fight.
I'm picking Errol. Oh
man, damn.
I wonder why.
Now look, hey, but look. He picked Garcia, and we live in Baltimore, so he picked Garcia versus Tank. So he's doing his own thing. All right. I had to escort him around the neighborhood, though. I'm like, all right, look, we live in Baltimore, sir. Let's calm down. Don't say that online. Just to keep that to you. All right. You're good. Come on, man.
Actually, I forgot what.
All right. Thank you. Sorry.
Before we wrap this up, you guys just want to give official predictions, or what are we doing?
I got Spence by decision, man. Probably split.
I'm gonna go. Spence TKO late, like 11 or 12.
All you're missing is like the envelope, like Johnny. What's his name? For the late night show.
Oh, right. Carson? I need the envelope.
Yeah, Johnny Carson. There you go.
Right.
I'm going split decision Crawford.
Yeah.
I'm going Crawford split decision as well. I mean,
wow.
If the PBC is going to be a split decision, it's most likely going to go to Errol Spence, but I'm going to stick with Crawford. They can't rob him in this one.
I'll go split decision also. 2 115, 113 cards and 118, 110 for Spence card. How about that? And everyone's going to be like 118, 110.
Yeah, there's going to be a ridiculous card out there. There has to be.
That's on the money right there.
No, 120 card out there, and everything else 115.
So, Gunner, what's your pick?
I got Spence, man. I think that Crawford's going to give up a couple early rounds, man. I think he's going to give up a couple early rounds, and I think that Spence is just going to be too much, man, for Crawford to come back. I think that's just going to be it. I got to go into 7-5.
Let me just let you know it's okay for you to have that Texas bias. I'm a Nebraska fan, so Crawford's from Omaha, Nebraska.
I think Crawford is so strong, even though Spence is faster, that even if he just like punches him once, he could fall. Even though if he comes back, stands back up, and puts on more points, just that fall, like he's gonna win. That's how he's gonna get the split decision. Like he's gonna make him fall.
It's funny that you say that because I really think the flash knockdown is gonna happen to Bud. I think the flash knockdown.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Then he'll fight desperate after that. If he
that's why they get in the ring.
And that's gonna be a problem.
Desperate.
That's gonna be a problem. He's gonna have to keep his cool. Like, one last thing too, real quick. I know we was trying to wrap it up. Do you guys factor in at all, or do you think it is meaningless? Because I was watching this on another YouTube joint that the fact that Errol shared the ring with Floyd, like you're fighting, you can cut off the ring against a guy who has great legs, a guy who's an intelligent guy. I don't hold Bud to the caliber of a Floyd Mayweather, and if you're able to dot his eye up and get big props from Floyd, I mean, I think that kind of ring experience that says something. And this is
let me just say, if we're going to count sparring, Floyd's 50-1 because Spotted got him.
Spotted aced him.
Well, I mean, you're talking about, but look. We know the circumstances going into that. This was a young Floyd who was not even in shape. Did you notice? Ever since the Spotted thing, Floyd did not allow taping, and he was never out of shape between fights ever again.
He learned his lesson.
I'm just saying that in terms of dealing with a guy that because we all know that guys fighters are coming in, the ladies and the guys, we're coming in one shape. Maybe you're just starting camp, maybe you're in between fights. So that has a lot to do with what happens in the sparring. I'm simply talking about the ability to cut off the ring with a guy of that level of intelligence and ring experience. You know what I'm saying? Like that, it didn't seem to me from all accounts that like there was no befuddled thing for Errol. Like that was some serious work for Floyd. And I don't hold Terence to a Floyd Mayweather caliber. I just don't hold him that high in regard. I think Floyd is we can say what we want about him as a person, because I don't necessarily care about the Mary J. Blige boots and all the nonsense that he does outside of the ring either. But inside the ring, I mean, that's one of the smartest, most cerebral guys we've seen in the last, I don't know, I'm saying my lifetime. That's one of the most intelligent fighters that we've seen in my lifetime.
I call it the smartest athlete I've ever seen in my life, bro.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's we got to at least give him that. And I feel like if you can get some of those things done against a guy of that caliber, and it is just sparring, but it's doghouse rules. I mean, that's a thing too. I don't see that Terence is the kind of guy. I don't think he's as cerebral as Floyd, and I think that's what's going to get him in trouble. I think he fights with a little bit more heart and a little bit more attitude, and that's going to get that flash knockdown and probably get him punished down the stretch. I hope I'm right.
Hey, one more thing, bro. UFC 291s this weekend, man. I don't know. I know that this is the boxing chat right here, bro. But
this is on the schedule.
Oh, okay, man. My bad. Well,
no, I'm gonna say who scheduled that on the same weekend as this fight?
Oh, that's bad. That's a bad idea.
Yeah, it might be, man. But I'll tell you this, man. If that thing's going on before the fight, I'm going to be tuned in, man. That thing
gotta get the split screen. Get the split screen.
Absolutely, man.
Who's fighting on this card?
Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, man. That thing's going to be the fight of the year, man. Those two dudes probably the most exciting fighters all time. Both of them, back to back, top two. Like yeah, man. And they're putting the BMF belt on the line, man. That thing is going to be a barn burner, absolute barn burner.
I almost believe something has to give now. You can't have two fire events going on and they actually become fire events. Something has to be a dud. Something has to be fire.
I'm telling you, man.
Hang on, guys. Let me say one more thing. I hope she doesn't mind. Phoenix is a new mom recently. She became a mother.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Future
champion.
I'm surprised you're awake, because are you getting sleep? How old is the baby now?
He's 1 month old, and no, I am not getting sleep.
Oh, you're awake. You must be full of coffee right now. Oh my God.
I'm back at my gym too, but only 3 times a week. So
that's crazy. Wow.
That's serious.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but I love him, but I also love boxing. So we'll see. We'll figure it out.
Wow. There you go. That's beautiful. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Family. Born into a boxing family where the mother is the boxer.
Come on. My husband loves it too. Actually, my husband is more MMA. He's been a MMA fighter. So I know a lot about UFC, and I know we're into both of them.
Heck yeah.
So you guys kids are not gonna have a whole lot of back talk. There's not gonna be a lot of back talk in that.
They always ask us, is he gonna be, a UFC fighter or a boxing fighter? I'm like, he's probably gonna think like, my mom and dad are crazy. Like, I don't want any of that.
Be a priest.
Yeah, I want to be a priest. Oh, okay, that's fine, baby. Yeah. All right. Thank you, and thank you for having me here. Hopefully, we can keep doing this.
Oh, definitely. Thank you for coming on.
After the fact, on Monday, perhaps we could probably have some of us back, depending on what happened this past week.
We can tell Paul how he was wrong and gunning.
Yeah,
right? Come on now. Someone's going to have to take their medicine unless there's a draw, but then we'll complain about how the draw happened. So then
Well, look, we don't even have to get too worked up, because there's a bilateral rematch clause, so we're probably going to do this again. Unless somebody takes a hellacious religious style beating, we're going to probably do this again.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good.
Thanks for coming on, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Man,
episode number 32.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Deuces.